Good evening, YouTube. This is Tire Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys are having a good Tuesday. Have ongoing severe weather. This has pretty much been the topic the last few weeks for the most part, and this doesn't look like that will change anytime soon. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, just by looking at today's map, a lot's happened. We went from having one marginal risk area to having five, and we have a new slight risk area right down here around the southernmost and south centralmost parts of Texas. This could probably even extend south of the border. In fact, you can even see some storms firing over there. We're expecting these to push their way into this part of Texas, and we have another area of storms we're expecting to fire late into the evening into overnight around eastern Texas, and then we have another area they're expecting storms to form in the panhandle of Texas. Unless you're in like the centralmost part of Texas, and I even see a storm firing there, I don't think Texas is getting away from any severe weather anytime soon. Then we, of course, have the area that I've been talking about for the last few days around the Ohio Valley, where we have ongoing severe weather and a tornado watch that includes the states of Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, of course, mostly Ohio, in fact, then West Virginia and Pennsylvania. So we got 5 states under a couple of watches. And as of right now, we have an ongoing tornado warning towards northern Ohio. And then we have a multitude of severe thunderstorm warnings towards eastern Ohio and a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in Pennsylvania. And then there's even a few severe thunderstorm warnings for these popcorn style thunderstorms, the summertime like thunderstorms set up in Georgia and South Carolina. With the dew points being as high as they are around these areas, and once you hit about 80 to 85 degrees, you can't rule out a storm maybe producing some small hail or gusty winds. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about everything here. I mean, the tornado threat hasn't really changed with Tuesday, and we're not really going to talk about this much. I'm very concerned about tomorrow, however. We've extended our enhanced risk area. It's a little bit larger now. Almost large enough to where I kind of get the vibe that we could be going up to a moderate risk somewhere towards the central and maybe western parts of this enhanced risk. So I'm definitely keeping a close eye on Oklahoma City, Norman, Fort Sill, maybe even Wichita Falls and areas to the west. And we also have the slight risk, which doesn't go any further north. So Andover in Wichita, you might be spared this time. You have a marginal risk, so your chance isn't zero. So don't get me wrong when I say you might be spared, but things aren't as bad looking as they have been. Here's hoping that it stays that way. But we talked about these areas: Abilene, Dallas, Fort Worth, Midland, Lubbock, Amarillo, and Woodward, Tulsa. You guys are under a slight risk. And then we have another marginal risk for the same areas getting some storms right now. This includes Charleston, South Carolina, and Columbia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Wilmington, and Raleigh. You guys are in there as well. And then towards the Virginia coast, we have Virginia Beach in play. So we'll take a look at the tornado threat. There isn't one for that marginal risk on the East Coast. But over here, oh boy, we've gone all the way up. We've gone up to a 10% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of a given point. And that same tornado threat also has a hatched risk, meaning we have a chance of a significant tornado, which is a tornado with EF2 strength or greater. Pretty much encompasses our just about the entirety of our enhanced risk area. So we'll watch that especially close tomorrow. Wind threat, I do think this will be upgraded to a 30%, especially around areas to the west of Norman and Oklahoma City. Then our hail threat, and the reason this also kind of has the look of a significant tornado threat When I looked at some of the soundings earlier today, I did see impressive lapse rates and instability. Plus, we have a very active low-level jet, which I showed in a video a couple of days ago. I'll try to sneak a link in there to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. So, we have a hatched risk and a 30% area. This hatched risk includes Woodward, Norman, Oklahoma City, Fort Sill, Wichita Falls, Texas, Abilene, Texas, and areas to the west. Lubbock and Amarillo, you guys are just outside of this. We'll keep an eye on this because this could also change. So then we look at day 3. I'm also very concerned about this. This also has the look of all hazards being possible. It's a very impressive low-level jet. We're looking at potentially 50 to 70 knots around this area. And I also noticed just how big of a enhanced risk area this is. This is bigger than Wednesday's threat. So there is a possibility this could be upgraded to moderate. We're really hoping that's not the case. But 'tis the season, so hey. We don't have a look at the hazard types because we're not within 48 hours of this yet. But simply put, we're going to go over these areas. Starting with a marginal, we have New Orleans. Birmingham's just on the line. Might as well call you in it pretty much at this point. Nashville and Bowling Green, you guys are in there as well. Evansville, Indiana, you're in play. St. Louis, Missouri. Springfield, Illinois. Hannibal, Missouri, or Illinois. I'm not too familiar with that area. Peoria, you're in play. Then earlier in the day, I think Kansas City, San Antonio, and Houston, Austin as well. You guys are in play. Slight risk, we have Alexandria, Lufkin, Texas in play. We have Jackson, expected to have severe weather later in the day. Jackson, Tennessee, you guys are also in play. Jefferson, you're in play for a slight risk. And then earlier in the day, we're expecting Waco, Dallas, and Lufkin to have severe weather. Then, of course, our enhanced risk, we have Springfield, Memphis, Greenville, Greenville, Mississippi, and Shreveport, Louisiana, and also Little Rock, Arkansas. Then we go to day 4, days 4 through 8, and we're going to fast forward to day 6, which we have more severe weather expected. Slight risk, I do expect this to extend in size. No dirty jokes, please. I'm looking at you, Justin. But we got Wichita, Lincoln, and Kansas City in play for that. And then on day 7, which will be Monday of next week, we have Lincoln, Omaha, Norfolk in play, and then we have Sioux Falls and Des Moines. So we'll look at those. We'll look at all these severe weather days in particular tonight. And then we'll kind of really hone in on Thursday. Then we'll just kind of cruise through Wednesday and Thursday tomorrow. First things first, though, let's take a look at what the radar could look like tonight. Here's storm number 2. Our first storm, which caused the severe weather Monday, has now moved off the coast. So we're watching this roll to the east. By the overnight hours, I expect this threat to diminish greatly. Meanwhile, our next player right here, storm number 3, is going to be moving along into the south central plains. Based off of this look here, it looks like there's already a sufficient amount of convection, so we'll have to watch this extra close. So in order to get a little bit further into this, we're going to switch to the Euro, and we're just going to go on from there. So this is where we are right now. It's about the time that I had when I had to stop off on the HRRR. I do want to note that the Euro is a long-range model, so it's not going to be as high resolution as the HRRR. So we can clearly see a line of storms forming up in the early morning hours, and we see a boundary be created here. There's plenty of convection here, so there could be a fair amount of supercells. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow whenever we get in range of the into better range of these short range models. We can get a really good idea of what lies ahead here. This kind of has a very linear look to it. So this still has that quasi-linear look, but I do see these little kidney beans out ahead of it, and that's what I'm concerned with. I'm concerned that these will have a tornado threat with them, even though right now the sounding isn't picking up on it. The only downside to the Euro model right now is that this is from noon basically. The Euro does not update like the HRRR and the NAM. Those update a lot more frequently because, like I said, they're short range models. So I'm trying to kind of get more of a linear look from this, especially into the overnight hours. And then Thursday, by the afternoon hours, this works its way into Arkansas. Starts to die out, this quasi-linear system. But then this has a very eerie look. You see where this low pressure is, and I mentioned it in the last video, and I'll leave a link, and I'll post a link as well. Right on this southeastern quadrant here, often tends to be a very dangerous spot. So right now we're not seeing anything on the hazard type, but I do think that there is a tornado threat here. I don't know if this model is so out of date that it's not picking up on it, or we're just so far out of range. Then on Friday, Friday is not a day in particular where we have a hazard, any particular severe weather area, but I do think that this line of storms could come into play, bring some marginal severe weather to the southeast, may even include Atlanta. We'll have to watch that real close, but it's going to bring plenty of heavy rain to the south and east, and then cause a little bit more trouble on Saturday around the Virginia area, and maybe even some parts of the Northeast. Then as this moves off, Sunday, this is our next storm system here. You can even start to see the severe weather popping up. It kind of takes that northward track. Has a little bit of that same look that we had a couple of weeks ago, so some isolated tornadoes are once again possible. Maybe a little bit further towards the north. I think South Dakota might be in play for this, as well as Minnesota. That being so far out, the soundings aren't going to be very useful. Meanwhile, behind this low pressure on the backside of it, we have a pretty formidable snow event that's beginning to take shape here. Really affecting areas to the northwest. Idaho's in play for this as well. We also have, of course, Washington and Oregon. You guys are in play. The Rocky Mountains, you're also in play. It's a pretty stout looking snow system. It'll be interesting to see if this forecast holds up, because that could be very significant. And then also, it looks like a very dynamic system is rolling through, so we could be seeing snow on the backside of this. So we'll watch this real close. Then on Tuesday, it looks like we have another severe threat that hasn't been talked about. We're past the 8-day mark at this point. We're looking at about 10 days out pretty much towards the end of this model run. But I see two little line segments here. We'll watch this real close. I might even try to clip this just for my own memory, just to see what this ends up doing. So about 8 days out, we see what looks like another line of severe storms works its way all the way across the Ohio Valley, and then we're seeing even more. So I think this more lines of storms after that. So we're going towards maybe a linear damaging wind event in the coming week after this one, because all these low pressures seem to have these linear style looks to them. But of course, this is all very far out, and this isn't really picking up on what I think is a much greater tornado threat than expected. So we'll have to watch all this really close. Quickly look at the parameters here. We got a little bit of a low-level jet ongoing right now. Okay, there we go. All right, so into the late evening hours, we're going to watch this low level jet kind of diminish. Meanwhile, this one will start to build up. So by this is a strange little run from the euro. It's not really showing how strong this low level jet actually is. We're clearly seeing stuff around the 45 and 50 knot mark, but I did see shorter range models showing something stronger than this by far. So we'll have to take that with a grain of salt. Into the overnight, we have a surge. We're getting towards that 50 to 60 knot mark, and then I'm really concerned about Thursday because I remember seeing a synopsis saying we were going to be towards the 50 to 70 mark. The euro isn't picking up on this, and then on Friday, we have a sufficient low level jet around the southeast, so we'll have to watch this real close. And then on Saturday and Sunday, doesn't look like there's too much to work with here as far as low level jet's concerned. So the tornado threat's definitely going to be a lot lower, almost next to zero around these areas. But then the area of interest changes. We end up looking around here. And there is a low level jet there. It's not the most impressive until we get into the overnight, so we'll have to watch that real close. Still hitting that 40 knot mark, which is about where 45 knot mark, which is about where you would be starting to look for a tornado threat. This thing's slowing down on me. Seem to have too much going on here. Oh boy. So the wind map is finally starting to show its true colors again. So go back a little bit. Dang. So we go back to Sunday here. Get our footing. So we get a low level jet reading around 40 to 50 knots Monday morning. Oh, come on. Don't do this to me. Here we go again. Yeah, it's frozen up on me. There we go. We're going to watch Monday night really closely because now we're starting to push towards that 50 and even the small area 60. Even though this is all the way back here, this could easily move around to this spot. Let's hope not, because that could be a really big problem Monday. Oh, man. Ooh, wow. Look at how that picks up on Tuesday. I haven't looked this far out yet. And then Wednesday, of course, this correlates with our next threat. Oh, jeez. This wind map is driving me nuts right now. So, move this along. And basically everywhere where we've seen those little lines of storms forming in the days ahead, that's where our low-level jet is. So that matches at least. So we'll have to watch that real closely. Main thing now will be looking at the dew points over the next few days. We're just going to probably continue to see the same pattern with the dew points. We'll have dry lines come in, and ahead of it, we'll have a surge in the dew point. Temperatures will be hitting the 60s and 70s in some spots, and then when the storms come through, that dry line will knock those temps off, and then they will just come right back. There's nothing really blocking the Gulf of Mexico moisture from basically traveling up as far north as it wants. So let's play this and roll it. Look at that. Wednesday, just keep getting these huge surges of moisture. And then on Saturday, around here, and then Sunday, right here. And I do think that these dew point values could be on the conservative side here. But just look at this surge of moisture. Like we'll literally just watch these dry lines come through, bring that moisture back down, and then it just comes right back. Just absolutely insane, especially this early in the year. You don't see these kind of dew point values this far north, where we're talking about South Dakota getting into the 50s and 60s. And we've been seeing a lot of that this year. This looks like it's going to be a very active year of severe weather. One of the more active years to remember. So, take a look at the Cape. Last but not least, this video might be running about 20 minutes, basically, simply due to the issues I've had with the low-level jet map. God, I love that map. But anyway, my issues aside, let's look at the Cape. So, this is our severe weather threat for tonight. Pause it for tomorrow. I do think that these values are conservative. The shorter range models tend to have a much better hold on our Cape values than stuff like the Euro. I don't really like going to it for the short range stuff, maybe for the long range. But you can still clearly see that we have values hitting 3,000 joules per kilogram. Very efficient environment for thunderstorm development. And then even around the southeast, we're getting some pretty high values at Cape here. So wherever storms form, they could have a little bit of oomph here. You may even get a pulsing severe storm, even around my area in Atlanta. So all my coworkers or any friends, just be prepared for changing conditions and the slight chance that if you're trying to have a picnic during any of the days this week, there might be a pop-up storm that might damper those plans for a moment. It shouldn't last long in theory, but if you end up under one, it could very well be intense. So, move this forward on Thursday, and then on Friday, still have very sufficient Cape values. Saturday, and Sunday. Whoa! Hold the phone. Good grief. My word, look at those values. That is crazy. Look at that. Just look at that. I think Saturday night will be upgraded to a severe weather threat all its own. Because, I mean, that is ridiculous. We are nearly maxing out. We are nearly getting towards 5,000 to 6,000 joules per kilogram. Thunderstorms can form in this area as well, so there might be a marginal risk here in Oklahoma on Saturday into Saturday evening. So we're going to watch that real close. This is my first time really looking at this model today. And then just look at the Cape value. This could be overdone, honestly. But if not, then that's kind of scary to see these values this high, especially this early in the year. Just look at that. We're looking at well over 4,000, getting into 5,000, maybe even 5,500. That's just bonkers. Like, that's just bonkers, man. And then Tuesday, we're continuing to see ridiculous Cape values. And this doesn't die down until Thursday of next week. But even then, that's a short range. This is a long ways out. So this could easily uptick as well. It'll be interesting to see how this gets translated into the shorter range models. I don't think these Capes are completely correct. So we're going to have to watch this real close. But this just shows how active things are and how they will continue to be active in the weeks to come. This is all I got for you guys. Hope you guys stay safe if you're in an area of concern within the next 10 days. I'll do the same. This has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. You guys have a good night.